Welcome back to the Evolution of Mom podcast. I am so excited and honored to have one of my favorite humans here today, Alan Lazaros. I can't say enough about this man. He has tackled and is tackling so many beautiful things in this life. He has a podcast with Kevin, who was on our show a few weeks ago. They're doing 7 episodes a week. I said 5 last time. Kevin gracefully corrected me.
Makes
7
sense.
days a week. And they have coaching, and Alan and his equally inspiring and deeply beautiful girlfriend do relationship coaching as well as philanthropy stuff on the side. This guy has everything going on, and it is all about serving the world, growing himself, helping others grow. And I am just so grateful to have you here. Thank you so much for being here.
Amy, as I messaged you last night prior to this interview to prep for this, you're one of my favorite people. You're extremely heart-driven, and this is very, very aligned for me. The first thing I want to say up front is I'm not a mom, but I coach many, many moms, and so many of our listeners are moms. So I'm excited. I've learned a lot. In the last 5 years on the podcast, our listeners are primarily women, and I've learned so much. And I used to say this all the time, and it's still true today. I feel like I've learned more from my female clients than they've learned from me. So I'm excited to unpack some of that today.
I think that's so beautiful. I can deeply stand behind when you guys say and have had said to you that you guys are all heart, but no BS. And I think that's a beautiful balance, and why women are so drawn to you, because we deeply search for that heart-driven space, but we also need that no BS to keep us within our realm of what our goals are. So I think you guys are the perfect space for that. It doesn't surprise me at all that you attracted women in this way. And I remember when I started coaching with you guys and came into your guys' space at the beginning of the year, that's when you guys were really hitting home with, you know what, we're realizing a lot of our listeners are entrepreneurial, heart-driven women. And you said you have thousands of women listeners. You've coached dozens of women personally. And I would just love to hear more on that. I would love to hear what that has taught you, what you feel women need to hear from, the collective that you have seen. And I think we should just dive into that space.
I think the first thing to talk about here, and I appreciate the frame already. The first thing to understand, and I told Kevin this too, not only is the entrepreneurial revolution upon us, but females are not being suppressed like they used to. And it excites the hell out of me. I mean, I've said it many times, the fact that we've not had, I live in the US, you're in Canada, but the fact that we've not had a female president is like ridiculous at this point. And so I do believe the 21st century is going to be the century for empowered women, which it's about freaking time. And so, there's a lot of things to unpack there, but when it comes to the practicality of like what I think might help an entrepreneurial female or just entrepreneurs in general, but primarily the feminine energy. I think designing your life around simplicity to the very best of your ability, because simplicity creates consistency, and consistency creates momentum. And momentum is where you really tap into the compound effect of like really massive results. And I think that that's really the key, is how do you create an environment and a life that is prioritized really, really well around your core values. That right there is, I think, the absolute key for any, because I feel like we wear so many different hats, especially moms. They have the mom hat, and they have the intimate partner hat or wife hat or whatever. They have the career hat. They have the entrepreneur hat. They have, they're the financial advisor. It's so many different hats. And so getting crystal clear on your core values and always living from that place and designing your life around those core values and really saying no to the things outside of that genius zone is, in my opinion, that's what I've seen unlock so much potential, because most of our team members at NLU as well are female.
That's so beautiful. I deeply agree. And mostly because I have experienced that in this last year. You guys have absolutely helped me dive into core values and boundaries, and that has shifted my entire life. I think I think simplicity, I think that's something we need to dive into a little bit deeper, because women love to overcomplicate things. I am so guilty of that. I overthink and overcomplicate so many things. So having my core values, and my core values are freedom, love, and growth. And then there's subcategories of those, but the basis of it is freedom, love, and growth. And knowing that now, I can pick and choose and have a perspective of my life and what's going on from those three perspectives. And it has made my life less complicated and more simplistic and more, does this align with my core values? Yes, great. Let's flow into that with ease. Doesn't? Amazing. I can say no to that with strength and a knowing that it doesn't serve me. I don't need to dive into that space.
The best, Amy. So good. And the fact that you even said like the three, and then you said, yes, there's subcategories, but then didn't go down that rabbit hole. That's already progress in the sense of like, these are the three.
It was so hard for me to get those three because I started with like 35.
Yeah, exactly. Literally. It's like my girlfriend. It's like you ask her her favorite color and she says the rainbow, right? And for me, it's blue. Yeah. And it's just blue.
And I think, well, what are you talking about? What color? Right. Is it for clothes? Is it for nature? Is it for...
Yeah, exactly. And there's beauty in that, and there's strength in that, because you and I have talked on book club. Life is a constant dance between expansion and refocus. Mm-hmm. Expansion and refocus. And I think the feminine energy is very expansive, wants to learn a lot of different things, wants to do a lot of different things. And I think the masculine energy is really good at focusing in and honing in. And I think that we all need both. And, you know, I just a little bit of background. So my birth father passed away when I was 2 years old, and I had a stepfather from age 3 to 14. And he left when I was 14. And so, but he was never really a huge role in my development for many reasons that I won't even get into. But basically, I was raised by two women, and so was Kevin. And I think that that's the fascinating thing, right? It's not a coincidence. I think it's very synchronistic. He was raised by his mom. So his father left when he was born. He was raised by his mom and his grandma. And I was raised by my older sister. She's 3 years older. And my mom. We still laugh today that she potty trained me. I don't know how that worked, but apparently that was the thing. But I think that might be part of why I work so well with females, but not just females, but the feminine energy. I feel like I have a very strong, my nature is very, very masculine. My nurture is very, very feminine. And so it's become a beautiful, obviously it was, you know, a challenge and adversity, but I think it has come full circle as quite a gift in hindsight, because and my girlfriend will comment about this as well. Like all the time, she'll say things like, I never thought that I could meet such a well-rounded, you know, holistic, virtuous man, because I think that the masculine energy can get a little bit overly blinders on and not see the big picture maybe. And then, you know, sometimes, like I said, the feminine energy wants to complexify. So it's where is your sweet spot? That's really what it is. There's no right or wrong, you know, you talk men, women, masculine, feminine, like it's, there's no right or wrong. There's no black or white. There's just, what is your center? Mm-hmm. You know, for me, I tend to be a little bit, so if you think 0 to 10, and I think numbers is another important thing to give my clients and team members. I've really helped them understand the value of numbers in the sense of like, what is your 10 out of 10? And it's like, well, all of these are important. It's like, yeah, but they're not equally important. There's no such thing as everything being equally important. And so it's when you rate them from 0 to 10, okay, so for example, freedom, love, and growth, what's your 10 out of 10? Very hard to freedom. Okay, awesome, which is why you said it first. For a reason,
yeah, that's right.
Okay, and so if
it took me a long time to put those in order, let me tell you.
I bet. And here's the thing. So, and another little tidbit for your listeners as well. There's something called a decision-making paradigm that we all have. We're just not usually conscious of it. So for example, if something were to take away your freedom in any regard, but yet it would be a growth opportunity, that would be like a little inner civil war of like, well, I'm going to grow, but like, oh, wait, it's going to take away my freedom. If you know freedom is your 10 out of 10, you'll not make that decision knowing that you're never going to sacrifice freedom for anything. Mm-hmm. Because that's knowing who you are, that's self-awareness. And so I think at the end of the day, try not to get caught up on the male, female, black, white, any of that stuff, masculine, feminine. Try to get caught up on self-awareness.
Huge. Self-awareness is so important because freedom means something to me, means something to you, means something to someone else who might be listening when, she's thinking, well, is freedom one of mine? Freedom to me means a lot of different things. It means the freedom to be home with my children. It means the
Right.
freedom to homeschool them and have the time to do that, the freedom to make money as I choose to do so on the schedule of my choosing. There's a lot of things that means to me. And so I think it's really important for women to understand that there's no comparison in this zone ever. It's what you are as an individual. And I think that's something that women need so much support in, is coming back to that individual state. Like you said, we wear so many hats and we get lost in those hats beautifully because we're such serving hearts, but we do get lost in those hats and it's hard for us to come back to that center. So I think that 10 out of 10 is a really beautiful awareness. And I do have to say that you and Emilia have brought that to Chris and I's relationship as well. So, I mean, you guys are all about, their business is called Next Level University, and that is for a reason. You're all about health, wealth, life, and love, and bringing people to that next level. And that 10 out of 10 really hit Chris and I. If when we're having those things, it's like, you know what, honey, this is a 10 out of 10 for me. What does that make? So let's go. It's 10 out of 10, hop on board. We're doing this thing. Or maybe it isn't. And so that kind of perspective too can be in all of the hats that you wear, these core values, these 10 out of 10s that you can have awareness of can be in the hats you wear. But starting with yourself first, I think that's where it really hits home and where we can really start to grow in that space.
Well said, Amy. Well said.
I love how holistic you guys are as well. That was the other thing, is I'm attracted to holistic growth. I'm attracted to growth that's going to affect every aspect of my life. And so that life, love, health, and wealth really plays a huge role. And women need that so much because that makes it feel expansive for us, but allows us to hone in on those individual areas.
I appreciate that feedback. And that's, I think, another thing too. In the podcasting world, some of the most successful podcasts we've noticed are very like pigeonholed into like their one thing, and that's niching. We're much more holistic. It was very hard for us to think of personal development or self-improvement from any one frame, because it's just hard for me personally to I mean, even some of my heroes, right? It's like, you're very wealthy and you have amazing impact, but your health is not good. Right. And then, some people who are unbelievably healthy, but they don't really have a big impact. And then, some people that have an amazing relationship, but their career is suffering. And so it's like, holistic is the only way for me. It's never personally made sense for me to only be good at one area of life, because I think fulfillment is a byproduct of holistic self-improvement within your calling. And I know, I've been very fortunate to meet many of my heroes, and, I've met billionaires and millionaires and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, oh, okay. Yeah. So one thing I want to bring to your listeners as well, having met these people, the billionaires and millionaires of the world, and the famous celebrities and all that stuff, having interviewed hundreds of people all over the world at this point, I've come to a really stark realization. These people are not better than you. They've been more consistent in their genius zone for a longer period of time than you. That's really it, right? And so, a hero of mine, Leonardo Dicaprio, right? Unbelievable actor. Been acting since he was a little kid, right? He's been acting for 40 years, right? Of course he's going to be paid a lot for acting, but you're not going to pay him to write a book. You're not going to pay him $30 million to write a book, because he's not a writer, right? Yet maybe he'll write a book. I'm reading Will Smith's book right now. But like, the point that I'm making is, like, these people that we idolize, you got to be really careful and make sure it's contextual to what they truly are magnificent at. Because I fell victim, for sure. I don't know if victim's the right word, but I felt guilty of idolizing people and then learning about them behind the scenes and being very disappointed, not because of them, but because of my perception being off. Like, for example, John Maxwell's unbelievable at leadership and unbelievable at writing books. He's got 100 books, but he's never been really good at fitness, and and honestly, that's okay, whatever, right? That's not his thing. But for me, it is hard to have a hero who's not in shape, because it's like, well, it's not like you don't have the time. It's not like you don't have the money, right? It's like you could, right? So that's never really made sense to me. But I think it's important for everyone to know these people aren't better than you. They've just been more consistent than you in their genius zone for a longer period of time. And I think that's important for everybody to know. So I just wanted to add that.
I think it is, because women deeply fall into that zone of comparison. And this came up in book club as well, which we haven't even mentioned. Alan runs a beautiful book club on Saturday mornings that is free and open to everybody. Something that you brought to my attention was that when we compare ourselves to people, we're seeing them in their moment of passion, purpose, genius zone, living what they have worked so hard for in the background, but are now showing you in person. And then we hit this comparison zone of, I could never do that. And women deeply fall into that comparison zone. So thank you for bringing that up, because I think that's very important. And diving into passion and purpose and what your individual gift is and what your genius zone is, I think is also so important, because that brings happiness. That brings joy. Me living in my purpose and my passion and honing in on that, even though it is very broad and holistic like yourself, because I love women's health, I love hormones, but I can't just talk about someone's endocrine system. I have to talk about their outside world, their health, their happiness, their, it's so extensive, but it does still fall under one umbrella. But I think it's more extensive than people think. And that makes me happy. It makes me happy in this moment as I grow towards things. And I think another trap that women fall into is the I'll be happy when. I can't have joy now because something needs to shift in my life before I can. Do you find that?
Yeah. I used to have that for sure.
I think we all have.
So for sure. And it's something that you have to outgrow. And I guess what I would say is, if you find yourself there, let's outgrow it quicker. It took me, I always say maybe I overcooked the turkey. I had my midlife crisis at 26. I'm so grateful for that in hindsight, even though it was very traumatic. I had a car accident at 26. And my father had passed away in a car accident at 28. So for me, that was like the moment of like, oh my God, I'm not happy and I need to make changes. And that's when I went all in on personal development. But to answer your original question about that, I'll be happy when. So when I was young, my hero was Steve Jobs, and he's still a hero of mine for sure, for many reasons. But again, not for the holistic reason, but for his vision and his ability to predict the future and his business acumen and that kind of thing, and his ability to merge technology and art. But early on, I'll be happy when I get straight A's in high school. I'll be happy when I graduate with high distinction from college. I'll be happy when I get into WPI, which is the college of my dreams. I'll be happy, when I get six figures. And, I don't think that I was necessarily unhappy along the way, but I wasn't conscious about making sure that I designed my life around happiness. And what I refer to as happiness, I now like the label fulfillment better. I'm reading a book right now called Optimizing for Fulfillment. It's going to be published in 2022, and it's a great book. And I think it's a great book, but I'm biased, of course. So the very beginning is like, if you are not trying to maximize your potential, like, put this book down. No, it basically says something like that, though. This is a serious book for serious people who want to have a serious change in the world, or a serious positive impact in the world. But anyways, so Optimizing for Fulfillment, to answer your original question about I'll be happy when, I think fulfillment is a better barometer, because fulfillment, we kind of know when we have it. And it's always a sliding scale. So from 0 to 10, everyone asks themselves, from 0 to 10, how fulfilled am I right now? Okay. I believe that fulfillment is the soul's recognition of alignment with its highest calling. Whereas happiness, what we think happiness is, a lot of times is actually pleasure, which is actually usually not fulfilling. It can be sometimes external. Right. Extremely external and fleeting, right? Donuts, delicious, not fulfilling, right? So it's important. Netflix, awesome, not fulfilling, right? At least not in the right doses. And so everyone has their own sort of chicken soup, so to speak, of fulfillment. And you need a little bit of broth, you need a little bit of broccoli, you need a little bit of, carrots, a little bit of chicken, but everyone has their own sort of, everyone should be, in my opinion, designing their life around fulfillment, which means designing your life around your core values, which means designing your life around your calling. Because if you do that, you'll be more percentage fulfilled, and you'll still have good days and bad days, but at least the trend line, the trajectory will be up. And so this I'll be happy when, if you find yourself only being happy once you achieve things, you're in trouble, because consistency is what brings really great results. And consistency usually is fairly boring. And honestly, I don't know anyone who doesn't feel that way.
Yep, I agree. And yes, happiness is very fleeting, is very external. And we do get in that trap of, oh, I'm feeling unhappy. I'm going to go get these shoes. That'll make me happy.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
feel
exactly
unhappy.
right.
I'm going to go, right? Where's my pint of ice cream? That makes me happy.
Yeah, that one I
Right.
resonate with. The shoes,
Right.
not
I
so
mean,
much.
I'm not about not dipping into moments of joy. I think we
Yeah,
all deserve that. Absolutely. But have it as
right.
an intentional moment of joy. Like, I'm like, this ice cream is my moment of joy. Like, thank you. But yes, no fulfillment. And you and I are also deep believers in harmony over balance, because I think
Oh
balance
my God, yeah.
is this impossible thing, especially when you're talking to women who are trying to wear all of these hats. And it's like, oh, if I could just balance it all out. It's like, you can't. You can't. It's not going to happen. Stop trying. But finding harmony and a nice ebb and flow in and out of them is so fulfilling and brings you happiness and brings you joy, brings you that sense of peace. And guiding into your core values is what's going to help you harmonize all of that.
Very well said, Amy. Honestly, everyone in the world needs to hear what you just said, in my opinion. This, because if you're trying to balance everything, it's almost like you're setting yourself up to fail for the rest of your life. Like this idea of work-life balance and this idea of like, it really needs to be viewed. The way we view something changes the way we feel about it. And the way we feel about it changes the way we operate within it. And so it's like, if you think you're going to balance it all, especially with the holidays coming up, I mean, you're just setting yourself up for frustration. But if you can find a way to flow and harmonize, and that's so important, like, because if you believe balance implies seesaw,
Yeah.
50-50. Nothing's ever 50-50, ever, in anything. That doesn't even make any sense. That's like, okay, you sleep 8 hours a night, hopefully. It's like, that's not 50-50. Right? That's 8 hours out of 24, which is 1/3. Okay. In a relationship, sometimes it's 80-20, sometimes it's 60-40, sometimes it's 70-30. So trying to spend your whole life trying to get everything to balance, I think subconsciously we're always trying to feel like we're on a seesaw. And I just really appreciate what you said there. I think when you work in harmony, it creates a perspective of, okay, I can actually win at that. I can actually improve that and succeed at that and not feel like crap when things are out of balance. Like everything at all times is somewhat out of balance, but it's actually in balance if you think about balance not in 50-50. So harmony, there's a lot of harmony out there. There's not as much 50-50 balance. So it's just an important thing.
And the seesaw is a perfect example, because you go up and maybe you chase some external happiness. So you're like, whoo, this is great. Yeah. Right. I'm up here. But then that down happens and it's disappointment. That was my down. My balance was, okay, things are great up here. And then all of a sudden it would shift. And now I'm so disappointed because I had these expectations of what this balance was going to look like. And I ebbed and flowed out of like superficial happiness or things like not in fulfillment, not in my space of genius, of purpose and passion, into disappointment and then overwhelm on how to get it back.
Same, Amy. That was the first 26 years of my life right there.
Right.
In many regards. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think like you, it's so funny. You and I, we both almost died in our 20s, and it shifted a lot for us. And I don't want you as a listener, as people out there, to have to almost die to have this kind of shift in this perspective. Right. And I think, I mean, you and I are both serving the world, I think, from our experience in that. And so I don't want anyone to feel like they have to go through these deep downs so that they can find their high, their joy, their passion, their fulfillment. And so, oh my gosh, I feel like that was very well-rounded and it all kind of came together. So I love you. Thank you so much for all of this. I could keep your time for days and days, but I do deeply believe that time is our only limited commodity. So I do appreciate you being here with me. Now, I would love just one quick takeaway. If you could give someone one tangible, small, consistent action step they could take from what we said today, what do you think that would be?
I always go back to the same thing, and it's a simple lesson that I learned from a very young age. Because I remember I was on a podcast and they said, what does it mean to be next level? And the only answer I could give, because I really thought about that, it's like, I need to know the answer to that one. Next level university, right? Next level universe. And it's like, it's who you are and what you do when no one's watching. Because that's when there's no subconscious appeasement to the social norms. That's like who you really are. who you really are when no one is when no one's watching, and what are you doing when no one's watching. And so an example of this, and as much as I adore you and I adore this platform and I adore what I do, like tonight at the gym, the amount of conscious effort that I put into my own self-improvement in that workout with Emilia matters to me more than this. Mm-hmm. My real life matters to me more than the nice Instagram photos. I swear to God, it just does. And I think that a lot of the world has that flipped. And I've been guilty of that too. So I'm not trying to be on a pedestal here. Before 26, before my car accident, I felt like it mattered more what other people thought of me than what my real world was. And so this digital world is awesome because we can reach people all over the world, but you got to be very careful not to make your digital world look better than your real life. Your real life and your real relationship and your real health and your real relationship with your kids and your real relationship with your pets and your real fulfillment matters way more than whether or not your Instagram is well polished. And I've seen too many people at this point that are truly unfulfilled and unhappy who have this magnificent Instagram or magnificent social media. It's almost an inverse correlation, by the way. And that's a whole nother conversation. But the one takeaway would be this. I was 7 years old and my mom sat me down and she said, Alan, you can be a CEO or you can be a farmer. I'm going to love you either way. That's the key. I'm going to love you either way. But if you decide to aim high and be a CEO, you can wake up one day and just decide to be a farmer, but it doesn't necessarily work the other way around. Okay. When my mom lost my father when I was 2, she was a young woman with 2 kids by herself. And she had very little academics and she had a secretarial degree, which was going out of date because of the computer age and because of computers. She didn't have a lot of choices. So she ended up in a relationship with my stepdad that I don't think was aligned in hindsight, but she was doing what she could to survive, to put food on the table for us kids. And so she taught me, Alan, aim high, do unreasonably well in school, and aim high and you'll have choices. And regardless of whether or not I ended up a Fortune 50 CEO like Steve Jobs, the fact that I aimed high did change my life. And by the way, I do have choices. And by the way, I do still think many of those dreams of having a Fortune 50 company actually are still in the works. So what's my last takeaway for your listeners? Aim high, whatever that means for you. Aim high, whatever that means for you. And then later in life, you get choices because you can always decide to climb down, but you can't wake up at 70 and realize that you didn't aim high, and that could be a lot of regret. So aim high, give it a try, and you'll, as long as it's within your calling, I promise you, maximizing your potential and your greatest level of contribution is fulfilling as long as you're in your calling and in your uniqueness. And so aim high and you'll have choices. That's the last takeaway.
That's amazing. That's so beautiful. Thank you so much. And I know you guys are going to reach those goals of that kind of company, of that kind of business. I have no doubt. And I'm so grateful to be able to watch that happen. I'm so grateful to be able to see that from now to what it's going to be in the future, because there is no scenario where I am not following what you guys are doing. You guys are doing so much good. And I mean, I could talk about how wonderful you guys are for the rest of the day. So I am going to leave it right here. You know, if you guys are looking for any kind of support in health, wealth, life, and love, you need this company, Next Level University, these guys, this team in your life and all that they have to offer. So they have a free Facebook group. Kevin and Alan both have Instagram pages. I encourage you to find. They're going to be in the show notes. And yeah, thank you so much, Alan, for being here. I appreciate your time.
Thank you so much, Amy. Thank you for always supporting us. You support us so much, and we appreciate it so much. And yeah, I really adore what you're doing on this platform. For other women moms who really want to have a positive difference and who might be struggling. So it's just awesome. It's just awesome. And I'm really grateful. You're very abundant and you're very quick to promote us. And it's such a beautiful thing that I think this world needs more of. So thank you. Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Thank you for being here. Until next time, guys, thank you so much for listening. Bye.